Pastor Tim coming to you again from Lomita and Bend United Methodist Churches here in Central Texas, a small church, United Methodist Church circuit, serving God in our place and our time. We have been doing stories of the Bible, topics of the Bible, things related to the Bible, because we figure that there is a necessity to learn the stories. We have the Advent tree behind us, the Christmas tree, because we are starting Advent now in preparation for the coming of the Christ child. We are not at that point in our stories. We're going to continue those up until right before Christmas. But we are continuing our leaving of Egypt. The Hebrew people were enslaved. Their numbers grew, and they were enslaved by the Egyptians and abused, as slaves often are. And Moses was sent down to get the people out. The 12 plagues have already happened, and now Pharaoh is at least in the moment convinced. And so now Moses has to get all the people going. He's been there for months. This was not a 1, 2, 3 kind of event. He's been there for months, and so he's had a chance to win the trust of the people. And I dare say that most of them were leaving with him. I don't think all of them were, because I'm sure that some people had it pretty good. Some Hebrews had probably married Egyptians, probably had positions of importance. Their children had been raised as Egyptians, and they were very comfortable where they were. People often get comfortable in a foreign land, and so they adopt that culture, and so they don't want to leave. So a majority probably left, and Moses is leading them into the wilderness. Now, this is something they've never done before. They've never been a group before, and so I'm sure there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, as they march on towards the promised land, towards the wilderness of Israel. And then the Pharaoh changes his mind. Pharaoh decides that the labor force that's going to be leaving was going to do too much damage, and so he sends the Egyptian army after them. And so they begin to flee, and there needs some kind of protection, because former slaves who don't have many possessions and don't have a whole lot of skills, especially fighting skills, against the Egyptian army stand no chance. And so God sends a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night to lead the people into the wilderness. And he also puts that cloud between the Egyptian army and the Hebrews as they're leaving, so they won't be to keep back the attack. And then they get to the what the Bible says is the Red Sea. Now they may have misrepresented that because it seems to be geographically logical that they would have come to the Reed Sea rather than the Red Sea. But it's still a sea. It's still a body of water that keeps them from crossing. That would greatly slow them down. If they had to build boats or somehow try to swim across, they wouldn't be able to take the possessions. Many people would die. So it's a barrier the same. And so they are caught between the Egyptian army and the body of water. So they said, "What did you do, Moses? Did you bring us out here to die?" Most of the time, what people do is they question their leadership. They don't question their own decisions. They don't commit to their own decisions. They don't question God. What they do is they question their leadership. And so they question Moses. "What did you do here?" And God tells Moses to go and hold the staff up, the one that turned into a snake when they first encountered the Pharaoh, and hold it up. And as long as you're holding it up, the sea will part. And so Moses goes and he holds his staff up, and his arms get tired, and so two people help, one each on each side, holding his arms so that the staff will stay up and the water parts. Now, whether that was a natural occurrence or a supernatural occurrence against nature, we don't know. But the water was parted, and the Hebrews were able to walk across this body of water. Now, as the Egyptians approached, it talks about the sea coming back together. Maybe the wind was blowing and it stopped blowing and it came back a little deeper. But the main thing was that the Egyptian army depended on chariots and soldiers that were heavily armed and heavily armored, and they were bogged down in the muddy water. So the sea came back, and the soldiers drowned because they were ill-equipped to go into the water to chase the Hebrews. And so they make it through to the other side, and Moses' sister Miriam begins to dance of joy, a dance of praising God because God has delivered them. I think that a lot of times we get in the middle of the crisis and we can't see any way out, but we can pray that God will make a way, and that even in impossible situations, God can bring us out to the other side and start us on a new journey that we haven't done before. But we have to trust God, and we have to trust the leadership that God sends to lead us. You have to test your leadership, but if they're faithful, if they represent God, if they listen to God, then they can lead in the right direction. We need to go as a group to be united in the ministry of Jesus Christ. So it doesn't help to have divisions. It doesn't help to argue back and forth. What helps is to listen to God and trust in God in that journey. All right, well, we'll see you the next time.